Hey everybody, this is Mr. Gauntlet again for CLT Prep Part 2. I'm looking at a new microphone. I hope this is going to work, please God. Today I want to cover problems 83 and 84 on Test 1, Edition 1 on the 2018-2019. So let's take a quick look. Number 83, a given circle has a circumference of x units and an area of x square units. In other words, the length of the circumference and the size of the area are identical. Which of the following statements must be true? Blah, 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 and blah. Let's take a look. We should be able to figure out something on our own. If you remember, for a circle, circumference is 2 times pi times radius. That's the circumference of any circle, and I'm sorry about the autofocus. It goes spazzy all the time. The area of a circle is equal to pi times radius squared. Now, they're telling us that the circumference and the area are identical. In other words, they're telling us that C is equal to A. Well, let's set these two formulas equal to each other. C is the 2 pi r, and that should be equal to the A, which is pi r squared. Okay? Now, how am I supposed to solve this? I mean, the only variable in here is r, so I'm just curious what r is. That's kind of what they're asking for anyway, but let's see what we can do on our own power. I notice both of these have a pi, so we should be able to divide both sides by pi and get rid of that. So 2r, is equal to r squared. Now, a lot of people would be tempted to divide by r at this point to get r equals 2. Now, that's a clever idea, but there's only one problem. You have to make sure that r is not going to be equal to 0. As a general rule, we don't know what r is equal to. So we have to assume that r might be 0. So we cannot divide by r. The way to solve problems, and you notice there are two different species of r, two different powers of r. In algebra, when there are two different powers of r in the same problem, you cannot solve with algebra, where if you just subtract 4 on both sides, divide by 2 on both sides, that sort of thing. You need to get the answer to 0. I'm going to do that by subtracting 2r on both sides. So I get 0 equals r squared minus 2r. Okay, this may seem a little picky, but later on, when pretty much any time you get two different powers of r, do not try to use algebra to solve it. You may have to do factoring or something more fancy. In this case, we will factor. 0 equals, these both have a common factor of r, so I'm going to undistribute the r, leaving r minus 2. And you notice something times something is 0. That should remind you of something called the zero product property, which means that if this times this equals 0, then either this equals 0 or this equals 0. So this one is already solved, and this one I can solve by adding 2 to both sides, r equals 2. Okay, now it actually was a good thing we didn't divide by r, because one of the solutions is r equals 0, which would have made the problem explode. On the other hand, if you're talking about a circle, I don't know why I'm graphing that, just a plain old circle, with a radius of 0 would actually be a non-existent circle. It would crush it down to a point. So I suppose it'd be a really, really teeny circle. But that's not the sort of circle we're dealing with. The only other choice is r equals 2, and that's apparently our answer. So let's take a look at all the possible choices here. It says the circle's radius is 1. No. The circle's radius is 2. Ding, 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 ding. So it's choice B for 83. And the others are not correct. Okay. Number 84. A scientist arrives at her lab only to find that 24 out of 250 samples have been improperly stored. Oh dear. If she is able to salvage 12 of the improperly stored samples, what percent of the total number of samples was she not able to salvage? Now remember, percentage is the answer to a division problem. So I can see if I can squeeze this in here. And I'll bring the words back down for a second. But again, a percentage is a dividing basically something over 100. So let's just say, just as a quick example that has nothing to do with this problem, if I want to know what is the percentage from 1 over 4, The way you do it is you take 1 divided by 4, and that's going to give you eventually 0.25 as a decimal, and then all you have to do is move it over 2 spaces to get the percentage. Remember that? Now, the exact same thing will happen. You can do the division problem and then move it over 2 spaces. Even if it's an icky decimal, it'll still work. Now, it says 24 out of 250 were badly stored. Okay. And it said that she was able to save 12. She saved 12. Now, how many did she not save? Well, there'd be another 12. Did not save 12. 12 out of what? 12 out of the original 250. Okay. Now, I want to find a percentage on that. 12 out of 250. You could do long division on this. That's actually the guaranteed way to do it. I'll show you that if you want. But there's a sneaky little way. I'm noticing 250 is a fairly nice number. If you multiply top and bottom by 4, I will do the normal division in a second. But watch what happens. I get 1,000 on the bottom, which is a beautiful multiple of 10 or 100. And then 12 times 4 is 48. 48 over 1,000 is the same as 4.8 out of 100. And whenever you have out of 100, that's another way of saying percent. So we're looking at 4.8%. Okay, that's one of the quickest ways to do it. Let me show you the long division, because I promised you I would. Hopefully everybody agrees that she did not save 12 out of the 250. So that means we have to take 250 and divide it into 12. That means put an extra few 0 decimal points here. By the way, when you divide by decimals, always put this decimal directly above the one that's in the dividend here. So 250 goes into 12, nope. 250 goes into 120, nope. 250 goes into 1200, that's possible. It actually goes in 4 times, it'll be 1,000. And then there will be 200 left. Now carry down the 0 rather, sorry. 250 goes into 2,000, actually goes in 8 times. And that goes in perfectly, leaving 0. So 0.048, and remember the trick? To make a percentage, you move it over 2 spaces, and sure enough, you get 4.8%. Now let's take a look at all the choices. Ta-da, 4.8% is choice A. Make sense? All right, so hopefully that'll hold you. This is problem 83 and 84. 85 and 86 should be forthcoming. Take care, God bless, talk to you later.